Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Shelly Peters. This is the place to embrace the plant-based life. Today, we're talking greens. How do you get more greens in your diet? I'm going to answer that question. Whether or not you are a long-time plant eater or you're brand new into the health food scene, you know that you need more greens. You know that greens are an incredible source of nutrients and fiber. They're going to make you look and feel amazing. So I want to show you how to eat more greens. I've got 5 tips on how to do that. So let's get into it. Let me just say first of all that when I became a vegan 11 years ago, I really didn't eat very many greens at all. Yes, I had salads and I had a little spinach here and there, but I really had not any understanding of the world of greens and how vast it is. And I needed to learn. So I went to the grocery store and I started exploring. I started buying collard greens. I started buying baby bok choy. I started looking for ways that I could introduce greens into my diet. And you know what? It takes some practice to get going. I was raised by a couple of folks from PEI. My dad was from a fishing village and my mom was from a farming community in PEI. Neither one of them really ate very many greens. When I was a child, we really didn't even eat salads very often. And spinach was sort of unheard of, and any of the really interesting greens that you can get, like arugula or kale or collard greens, baby bok choy, all the really fantastic greens were just not part of my diet when I was a child. So when I became a vegan, it was a little bit foreign to me. I had lived in Asia, so I definitely had been exposed to some really cool Asian greens, which piqued my interest. But it took me really going to the grocery store, buying greens and experimenting. And over time, you will learn how to manage the greens, how to make them taste amazing the way you like them, and you'll start incorporating them really quickly. So that's sort of my backstory about me stumbling around with greens, and I'm pretty comfortable with them now. Still experimenting, still exploring, but I definitely eat enough greens every day. It's a big, big part of what I eat. So let's get started. Let's get right into the 4 tips I want to tell you about. So the first tip I want to tell you about is I want you to add greens to everything you possibly can. I literally want you to think, whatever you're making, can I add greens to this? Can I add greens to this? I'm doing a stir fry. Can I add chopped greens to this? Absolutely. I'm doing a smoothie. Can I put a handful of greens in? Yes, you can. You can put in a handful of romaine lettuce, spinach, kale, arugula. Whatever you've got on hand, you can throw into a smoothie. The other thing you can do is anytime you're making a dish, be it pasta, curry, stew, soup, anything of that sort. Chilies are a perfect example. You can chop it and put it into the dish itself. Or here's another option. If you want, you can just roughly chop some greens, whatever greens you like, and you can put you can put a bed of greens on your plate or in your bowl, whatever you're using, and then put the chili or the curry or whatever it is on top of that. And the heat and the moisture from the dish itself will wilt the greens just enough, and you're getting the benefits of eating just about raw greens, really, that haven't been cooked. And it really creates a lovely, crunchy and addition to any dish. So it's what I often will do if I'm serving, let's say for instance, I'm serving a Moroccan chili. It's one of the chilies I make that has sweet potato in it. It's really, really good. One of the things I love to do is put it on a bed I start with some warm quinoa, some seasoned warm quinoa. Then I'll put a bed of greens on, and whatever I've got in my fridge. If I've got some kale, I will finely chop some kale and put a little bit of that, and then I just spoon the Moroccan chili on top, and it is gorgeous. It's delicious, it's filling, and you're gonna love it. So look for every possible place that you can add greens. When you look at your plate, it should have green on it. If green is not part of the main dish, make sure it's a side dish so you're getting greens at just about every single meal. If you do a tofu scramble, perfect. It's a great way to chop up some spinach, chop up some kale, arugula. Again, whatever green you like, you can add to your tofu scramble to get some greens in the morning. The other thing you might want to do is think about when you're having burgers, sandwiches, or wraps, to make sure that you squeeze in as many of those crunchy greens as possible. I'm going to show you what I keep in my fridge. These are standard items that I keep in my fridge, and then every once in a while, if I'm doing something interesting or different, I'll go out and get some different greens. But you will customize your greens to what you like, so start exploring. I always have kale in my fridge, and what I do when I get my greens home from the grocery store, I soak them all for 20 minutes to 30 minutes in cold water. It does two things. It cleans them off, and it also rehydrates them. So I don't want you to be frightened when you get to the grocery store and you can see that the kale looks a little wilted or one of the greens looks a little wilted. Don't worry about that. You can bring that right back to life in your own home just by rehydrating it. Soak them in water. So what I do is I get them soaked and clean them off, and depending on what the week looks like, I'll either leave them whole or sometimes I'll go ahead and chop them. The nice part about kale, it's very, very hardy and sturdy. Maybe sturdy is the better word. So it will last a full week in your fridge. You don't have to worry about it going brown or losing its losing its shape or anything, because it's quite a sturdy green. So it's a good thing to have as backup. So you've always got some. When you say, for instance, use up whatever lettuces maybe you want to use as greens. I personally love romaine. It's crunchy. It's delicious to me. I add it to smoothies. I definitely cram this thing in everything that you can imagine. And I also have a salad every day for lunch, but we're going to get to that tip in just a minute. The other things I always have in my fridge are sprouts. These are pea shoots. The other thing that it's really fun to do is grow sprouts or shoots on your countertop. It is so easy. I have some video and some pictures on Instagram of me doing it in a mason jar. It's ridiculously easy. You just have to buy the seeds and get a couple of mason jars with special lids you can get from Amazon. And it is a perfect way that you don't have to spend like $3 or $4 on sprouts. You've got them freshly growing in your kitchen. So that's the other thing. I've been super busy lately, so my sprouts were eaten up, and I went out and grabbed these because I haven't started growing them again, but I will. These kind of shoots are perfect for, I'm always talking about making your dishes look pretty. They're perfect for garnish. It doesn't matter, whatever you can think of that you're making. Throw a few pea shoots on top. Soup, stews, whatever. It's pretty and it's more green, so it's perfect. I also typically have a container of spinach. It's a simple go-to solution for those things I'm describing to you. If I'm having a soup, a stew, a curry, and I want to put them on a bed of spinach, I've got spinach. This one's triple washed. I don't even have to worry about washing it, so that's kind of handy. The other thing is that you can use spinach for, of course, is in smoothies and wraps and whatever else you can think of. So it's perfect. So those are some examples of what I keep in my fridge as staple items that are washed and ready to go. So I want you to, as I said, add greens to everything. Let me just check my list again and make sure I didn't forget anything. The other thing to remember are things that are creamy, like if you do a vegan Alfredo, maybe a cashew Alfredo, or you do a mac and cheese or Alfredo, those creamy dishes do extremely well with chopped greens. Adding some finely chopped kale into a mac and cheese or an Alfredo is gorgeous. It adds balance of flavor. The greens are a little bit bitter with the creamy, and it's a beautiful combination. And then, of course, you can add them to anything, as I'm saying, but you can also, of course, figure out how to use them as a side dish. So you can. I've got some mushrooms and some tomatoes here just as an example. Mushrooms and greens go really, really well together. If you're doing the no added oil like I am, then cooking mushrooms, they release juices and they're perfect to cook some chopped kale, chopped spinach, whatever, chopped collard greens or Swiss chard, whatever it is that you're cooking. So think about what things you want to add together with it. Garlic is gorgeous with greens. You have to have garlic with greens for sure. So that's the number one tip. Add it to everything. Literally think about every single thing that you're making and say, how can I add greens to this? The second one tip I have is that I have a salad every single day for lunch. And it's not a boring salad. It's super interesting. It's filled with all kinds of great things, but I can tell you what it consistently has: 2 cups of greens in it. So I know every day at lunch, I'm getting 2 cups of greens, and that's a given. As those of you who follow me know, I have oats for breakfast, interesting, fabulous, different bowls, so it's not boring. Every morning I have oats, and every afternoon, I have, for lunch, I have a salad of some kind, which again is not at all boring. It's super interesting and it's diverse. Sometimes I've got grains in my salad, sometimes I've got roasted veg, but I know I'm getting 2 cups of greens every day at lunch. So there's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is I want you to meal plan. For those of you that follow me, you know that I want you to, on Fridays, I want you to do a meal plan, a grocery list, and plan out what foods you're gonna prep on Sundays. That's what I do. It keeps my healthy eating easy and consistent, which is really what we're going for, right? So meal plan, and plan to add these greens in. And you know what? Just go for it. Look for recipes that you think look interesting and just grab that Swiss chard and give it a try. And the more you practice with greens, the better you're going to get at it, I promise. The 4th tip is really something I've already said. I want you to literally look at every dish and figure out how you can add greens to it. I want you to look at your plate and I want you to say, where are the greens? Even if you've had your salad, I want you at dinner to be looking at your plate and not have it be, mac and cheese and some sweet potato on the side. I want you to say, where are the greens? How can I add greens to this? I want you to look at your plate every time and look for the greens. The greens need to be featured for sure. Tip number 4. Tip number 5 is I want you to practice cooking with the greens. Just as I mentioned, look for recipes. Find out which ones you love. If you're like me, you weren't raised on greens, so it's going to take some time. And don't forget, your palate changes as you eat a plant-based diet as it goes along. My palate is totally different from what it used to be. And you'll be amazed at how you'll start craving some of these interesting greens. One of the little tips I'll give you that I didn't mention earlier is whenever I have pizza, on Fridays I make homemade pizza. I'm ready to, I've got my bread machine. I make the dough in my bread machine on Fridays. And every time I have pizza, I finish up the pizza, and before I serve it, I put a big dollop of greens on top. My favorite is arugula. To just put fresh washed arugula, a big handful on top of the pizza, and just bite into the pizza, and the addition of the crust and the gooey vegetables and all the goodness of the pizza goes perfectly with greens. So that's another example. So that's it. I want you to start having staple greens in your house. But you know what? Give yourself some time. If you're like me, it was completely foreign at the beginning. I want you to explore Chinese greens, explore local greens that you can get a hold of. Explore greens maybe you can grow inside, like the sprouts. So I want you to continue to explore. So here's your challenge that I have for you. I want you to go out today. Today's Monday, so whatever day of the week you're watching this, I want you to go out today, stop at the grocery store today and get yourself 2 bunches of kales. If you're feeling really adventurous, grab 2 bunches of, sorry, did I say kale? I meant 2 bunches of greens, 2 bunches that maybe you've never had before. If you're feeling adventurous, if you're not, choose a couple of things that you know you like, and then come home, rehydrate them, wash them, and get them into containers just like I've done, and plan to finish them up in the next 5 days. That's your goal. So figure out how you can do that. Every time you're going to open the fridge to make dinner or to make your lunch for work, you're going to look and say, how can I add greens to this? So that's your challenge. I want you to go out and do that today. And the other thing I want you to do is in the comments below, let me know, what are your favorite greens recipes, or how do you cook greens, and we can share it as a community. One thing I will mention is in the description box below, you'll see a link to my recipe for a tahini dressing that I use on a salad. But I have to tell you, it's not just for salads. You can also drizzle that tahini dressing on warm greens, on some sautéed Swiss chard, on some sautéed kale, whatever it is that you're doing, you can drizzle a little of that dressing on it and it will be lovely. So that's it. There you go. 5 ways that you can get more greens in your diet, helping you to focus on greens more, because they are essential to make you feel and to make you look and feel amazing. So thanks for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also, if you want the newsletter that I send out, comes out with this video and the full transcript of my blog, then you will just need to go to shellypeters.com and subscribe. And that would be awesome. So take care, and don't forget to stop and get the greens on the way home from work today.